Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of In the Spotlight. I'm Mike Kenichi. I'm very excited today because we have a very special guest. She's really making waves in the world of acting. She's done a number of things in her life, and she's going to tell us all about it. It is my honor to introduce to you Miss Candace N Lee. And Candace, I want to thank you for coming on today. It's a real honor for me, so thank you for doing it.
Thank you for the introduction, Mike. That's kind of you.
So, Candace, you were originally born in Ohio, correct?
That's correct.
Right, and I think you were like 3 or 4 years old when you and your family moved to Georgia. So just talk a little bit about growing up in Georgia. Very nice, place to live and stuff like that. So had to be a great time growing up there.
It was. It really has been. It's just I was a nature person from age like 5. So as soon as I was allowed to climb trees and go swimming and play with frogs, that's what I was doing. So
Right, and obviously you had to put acting on the back burner when you got older, but from a young age, you always enjoyed acting. You did school plays, you did drama competitions, you were playing music. So from like a young age, you really were inspired that this was something you wanted to do, correct?
yes, it was. My grandfather had a studio that nobody used. So when I would stay with them in the summer, that's where I actually kind of fell in love with parts of that because it was a ballet studio, which was empty. And then my family had us pick an instrument to play. So I played music and then I started into drama and then worked with group acting, individual acting, and duet acting, and then started entering competitions and just spent, my younger years doing that part of it.
Right. So you mentioned your grandfather, but was there anybody that you saw on TV or any film that kind of captivated you, like where you were like, you know what, this is something I want to do? Because when we're young kids, we see an athlete, we want to be a baseball player. We see an actor, we want to be an actor. I mean, was there anything in particular, any one person that kind of, you emulated or kind of looked up to, and that's why you wanted to do it?
So, as an animal lover, as a child, the the cliche Free Willy movie was just cute. Like it was one of those ones when you're little and you're watching it and you don't understand that killer whales are not cuddly teddy bears, that you just kind of have a fascination with both worlds working together. So that was interesting to me, like filming and then the theatrical part, and then it also got to involve the animals. So that was kind of a cool concept at a young age.
Right. And Candice, you also like I said, in addition to doing acting and stuff like that, you're also like a fitness trainer. So I mean, talk about that a little bit because I took on a trainer the last couple months, and it really changed my perspective on how you work out, what you eat, and stuff like that. So I mean, personal trainers really play a big part in people's development, not just being healthy, but just like making right choices on how they do their everyday life, especially with food intake and making sure that they're doing the exercises right and stuff like that.
So I started it after my second because of the trouble that women have with weight loss after having babies. But
Right.
it progressed into like a tailored situation for individuals who had busy schedules. So if they were in business for themselves and they were had meetings all over the place, they can't go to a gym all the time and they're out of country. So I started meeting with them individually and creating workout plans that worked for their lifestyle and then what they were around.
Right. And what is the thing that you get? What's the thing that you most get out of being a personal trainer? I mean, it must be when you see that they feel good about themselves and what they're doing every day. I mean, that's got to be the most rewarding. But I mean, is there anything in particular that is most rewarding to you about doing it?
The attitude change towards life for them is drastic. When they're physically working on something and they're actually having all those endorphins and things start to positively change in their everyday appearance, it carries over into the rest of their life. So when things become successful and their friendships and relationships get better because they're more confident and they come back and you're sharing that, and even in group settings, when they're done, they feel better, the rest of their day goes better. I, you
Right.
know, you're giving back, so it's always a
Yeah.
plus.
Right. And you're also a very good photographer. I mean, you've taken pictures over the years and things like that. How did you get into being a photographer?
I actually picked up a camera on accident from a friend playing around, but I think I've taken pictures all my life. So professionally, when I picked it up and started seeing the concept from both sides, I kind of fell in love with it and didn't stop. So then it was every day, all day long, whether I was looking at it, laying on the floor, looking up, looking at the other end of it, just turning things around backwards, seeing if there was a different angle. And then I was drawing it. So it really started with sketching because I started looking at the light and the way the shadows hit. And that's what caught my eye with the camera.
Right. And the thing is, what people don't understand about photographers is they just think it's taking pictures and, not a lot of work goes into it. But to get the right inspiration for what you're trying to do, to get the right shot, the right image, stuff like that. I mean, it's really a lot of hard work. And I mean, I'm sure there's times when you've taken photos, you're like, I didn't like the way I took that one. And you're constantly taking them over and things like that. So, I mean, there's a lot of work that goes into it.
There is. And there is. I find that when I get frustrated with it, the best thing to do is to walk away and come back and then actually do that same thing with the image. Distort it for a second to see if there's something that pops out in a different manner than it did before.
Right. Now, I think you had mentioned this previously when we talked off air, but I think one of the thing, if you had like the dream magazine that you could take part in, I'm trying to remember correctly. Was it like Time magazine that you would love to have some of your photos in? I mean, talk about some magazines that you would love to like, have your photos into.
Time Architectural Digest is a beautiful one. And of course, National Geographic is great. It's just fun if you can do things overseas and create something. Um, Other than that, those are really the three that I and people, that I've kind of looked into and pay attention to sometimes virtually and in paper still. So
Right. And now, let me ask you, is there, if you had the opportunity for a TV show or film, whatever it might be, and your pictures were able to be part of that, is there like the dream movie or dream show that you would love to see your stuff in?
I wish I could give you one.
Yeah.
There's so many phenomenal artists and film creators out there that I don't feel like it would even be fair to limit it to one. So I'm just
Right.
grateful and to be a present person in this field. I'm just thankful enough to be that.
Right. And now you're also a designer as well, Candace. So I mean, like I said, we haven't even scratched the surface yet on your acting and the other things that you take the writing and stuff, but you're also a designer as well. So I mean, it seems to me that you're just always keeping busy, that you're a very motivated person. And, you sound like the type of person to me that you'll work forever. You're not one of those that's going to just retire at 65, that you'll be doing something no matter what it is.
I hope so. I mean, I'd like to have a little place off the island in Greece and sell some kind of artwork when I'm retired or shoot
Right.
films over there or write. I mean, that's, the concept in way.
Right. So, how do you like the designing part of it? I mean, is that fun as well? I mean, is it something you're still doing today?
So designing actually started with the college part of my life, but I carried it into other things I still do. So when I'm setting up shots, that works. If I'm on set helping with design or placement, that helps. But it's not something that I have continued to do outside of film in other people's homes currently. It is just
Yeah.
what I started with.
Right. Now, you're also very much into dance, and I mean, you've done swing dance, salsa, hip hop. I mean, how did the love for dance start? And the other thing is too, Candace, I have known people that have taken dancing, and I mean, the work ethic that goes into it to do it good, and it always fascinates me how all the preparation that goes into doing maybe a 90-second dance performance is just unbelievable. Because I mean, it's like 5 or 6 days a week sometimes for a lot of dancers. So just talk about how the love for dancing started and how many hours would you say a week you had to put into it?
If I make a comparison, it's probably not probably, it's the same commitment that acting takes. So when I started dance, it was 3 hours a night, at least 3 days a week, and that was with a full college load. when I did it on my own. So I actually found a little studio that worked around my schedule, and then we just started working together with different instructors from all over, and that's usually who I chose to work with, simply because they weren't learning anymore, they were teaching. So,
Right.
and then you just kind of grew from there. But yeah, the commitment on that was your social life versus your dance life, you know, got to put some things aside.
Right. You mentioned the country Grease, but I was thinking about this with all the dancing and music that you love. I mean, I'm sure there's a part of you that would love to maybe someday do Broadway of Grease, the musical, the movie
Oh,
and
yeah.
things like that. I mean, are there any particular musicals that you would love to do someday?
You probably just hit the nail on the head. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot of fun. That one's a lot of fun. The choreography's fun. The costumes are fun. So
Right. And I mean, if you were to do Grease, is there any particular character you'd like to play?
everybody wants to play the lead character.
Yeah. Yeah.
But she's blonde. You'd have to rewrite that, which won't work. But it is fun. Just in general, the way that they have that written together is beautiful. So
Right. And the thing is too with dancing, Candace, is I feel like, when you're preparing for it, it's a lot of work. But once you get out there and perform it, I mean, it's got to be so much fun for you. And you just got to feel like, I could do this every night, perform shows and stuff like that, because you really get into doing it. And it's really like a rush that you can't explain.
it is, and you forget. Like you don't know what you did sometimes because you're so into the character or into what you're doing that you're just moving with all the practice and rehearsals that you've done, and it just comes alive and you're living it. So sometimes when you get done, you have to actually watch it to know how it all went. But yes, it is. It is absolutely beautiful.
Wow, it really is. And I think if somebody had to put a definition next to your name, it would be she can do it all. And I mean, you also have a martial arts background. And how old were you when you started studying martial arts?
I was an adult actually when I started
Wow.
martial arts. So it was made, it's to train you in different things. And actually, the art form is to teach you less violence. So violence is the last resort. And it's a self defense and it's actually a kindness as far as how you involve yourself with other people and your self discipline. And it's beautiful that way.
Right. And let me ask you, were you able to perform in any tournaments or anything, or did you do it more like as I don't want to say a hobby, but more as like to, you know, defend yourself and things like that?
For confidence in that, sure. I used it in my personal training methods. So
Right.
I took concepts from the martial arts trainings that I had that kept me in shape and active and sharp. And then I used them in how I created formulas for other people in their personal training.
Right. And now, do you still do it today, or have you had to kind of ease back on it with the schedule you have?
With the schedule I have, I do the videos on my own. I have not done an in-person class in a little while.
Right. And now, let me ask you, we're going to get to acting, obviously, but would you ever do a movie involving martial arts? Would that be something you like to do, or what?
Absolutely.
Yeah, maybe they could get you on Cobra Kai. That'd be great. Just for one
That would
episode,
be.
that would be awesome. But speaking of which, Candace,
I would love to do a guest star role.
yeah, hey, if they're listening out there, sign her up. But anyway, Candace, it's really remarkable how your journey to acting began, because you did what a lot of mothers do. You raised your kids first. You made them number one, which you should. And as they got older, you started to get in acting again. So a lot of, you hear a lot of stories. A lot of people think, oh, this person's been acting since they were 12 years old or 20 years old. But, you know, I've interviewed different actors over the years, and they didn't even get their first big film till they were like 35. Some didn't get it till they were 50. So I mean, you kind of went into it late in the game, but you are really thriving at it right now. And you went to what was it, the Fine Arts acting school? Is that where you attended?
I attend a couple different schools and
Right.
I switch them up. So it depends, what's going on. Each week we bring new instructors in every other month and rotate. Sometimes they're out of state. It just depends on who I'm with. But is there a specific place that you would find method acting in. I mean, there's you just have to research and see what fits for you when it comes to that, really.
Right. And now, not only have you done acting, but you've done writing as well. Which a lot of people, I always say this: the movie's only going to be as good as the writing that's involved. You know, you could give Tom Hanks a movie, but if you don't give him good writing, you'll see that he wasn't too good in that movie. Most of the movies he's so good in is because the writing is so done. It's done so well. I mean, what do you enjoy more, the acting or the writing?
The acting.
Yeah, definitely the
Yeah.
acting. And
Yeah.
one of the short films that you did was a film called Eden, I believe. Talk about that film a little bit, and what was it like getting to play that short film?
It was phenomenal. We had a 72-hour race that was going on. So we had to film the whole thing from start to finish in that time span and then have it turned in for competition. It's something familiar to people who are in the film industry and others, it's a stretch, but it
Yeah,
went very well. We did top five out of 150 internationally. And it was the first one that we collectively had done together, that group. It was a blast.
right. And I mean, that had to be a good feeling for you that your first film like that, or first big one where you were a feature player, that it finished in the top five out of 150 films. I mean, that's unbelievable. I mean, had to make you feel very good about yourself and just a lot more motivated to continue to do other projects.
It does. When you put some effort into something and something like that happens, it's just makes it easier to find new avenues and open it up. Your confidence definitely grows with that.
Right. And football is obviously a big sport in America, Candace. And you were fortunate enough that on Super Bowl Sunday during the pregame show, you were one of the feature actors that they covered. So, I mean, everybody and their brother is watching Super Bowl Sunday. It's on in every living room, parties, everything. So you're basically being, featured with millions of people watching. That had to be awesome for you as well. That they chose you as one of those actors to really look out for.
It was that director was wonderful, and it was spur of the moment. It was serendipitous. It was all of the things that you don't get to hear about in stories that happen. It happened that day. It was kind of you walk in, you didn't know what was going to go, what was going to work, who was going to be there, and all things just kind of started working like clockwork, and it turned out beautiful. But it was really great.
Right now, I know you probably don't get caught up in the whole, oh look, I'm in this, I'm in that, but I am sure your family does, and I'm sure it's exciting for your kids when they could say, "Mom, we saw you on TV today." It has to be so cool for them to see their mother, on the big screen.
I think working so much on it with them around maybe deters a little bit of the excitement of the reality with family when you're around them. They're like, "Oh, yeah, I saw you rehearsing that for like 3 hours." So, sometimes they don't get quite as excited as you would think they would, but they are very proud of you for the work that you put in, like you are them. So it does give them encouragement to do, as they see.
Yeah, and Candace, explain this to a lot of people that may not understand this. That acting is a very tough business, and you hear so many people talk about it. They might have this film they do, but then they may not get a big film for a couple years, or they may have a TV show they have to guest star in a lot of things. So I mean, how hard is it to basically get work in acting? Because people might think it's, oh yeah, you got an agent, you got this, you're fine, but it is not easy to get work in that type of business.
It is rare that star role will happen immediately. That is a very rare thing. But that's not a problem if you love what you do. It can be
Yeah,
discouraging sometimes because it is a lot of work, and it's a professional athlete schedule for yourself if you're doing it all the time. And because you're just training every day at something.
yeah,
So, it's not it's you love it. So that old phrase, if you do what you love, you don't work a day. I
yeah.
mean, kind of is true. It's a little true. You enjoy it. There's new things that come along the way. There's small things that build into bigger things, and the whole process is beautiful.
Yeah. And the thing about doing films, it's not something that gets done overnight or in 2 weeks. It takes a lot of time. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. There's a lot of days, a lot of hours you work throughout the days. have you had any films yet where like you've had to put like the 16 to 18 hours in to film it? I mean, has that happened yet?
Yeah, yeah, it has.
Yeah.
But it's those are great too because every time you get into a longer process in production, things rise to the surface that you didn't see before,
Yeah.
and then it gets good. So
Right. Another film you did was Wishes. Talk about that a little bit because that was another film that got good reviews. You know, again, you slowly but you're surely making your way to the top. But just talk about doing that film a little bit.
that was more family oriented. It was funny.
Yeah.
I actually had to pretend to have an allergy and have an episode at a party with an
Mm-hmm.
EpiPen. So
Oh man,
that
nice.
was fun though. I mean, everybody was like, "Oh my gosh!" you know, in the middle of it because it was a lot of interesting jokes and comedy and that's enjoyable too.
Right now, do you have one that you like more than the other, comedy or drama, or do you like them both the same? I feel like drama is a lot more work, but comedy could be a lot more fun.
Um, I don't know about more work. Comedy sometimes is timing, and if you don't get the timing right,
Yeah.
it's not so funny. So, it's an interesting way to have to train it, but both of them bring equal parts to the table for sure.
Right. A film that you did too that really interests me as well is it was called Dolly Parton Heart Strings. Talk about doing that film a little bit. And you kind of like grew up idolizing Dolly Parton, correct?
Uh, I don't know if I would say idolizing, but I do. I found her her ability to communicate is graceful, and
Yeah.
it was reconfirmed in person. So in the joking and in the conversations, she has a way of turning things into positivity, and it's not sugary sweet sickening. It's funny, it's lighthearted, it's welcomed, and it's encouraging, and that is admirable. And she's just a very gifted and giving individual. So
Yeah, and one of the movies I really liked her in a lot was Steel Magnolias. That was
yeah.
just a great movie that to this day, if you don't shed a tear, you're not human. But she did a tremendous job in that. And I always thought that she was very underrated as an actress. She was known a lot for her singing, but her acting was just as good as well.
Well, the episode that was there when she was present was Jolene, so she was actually getting to sing. So she was doing more
Yeah,
of that. It was the performance in the bar scene. So she was there doing kind of a live, and which was also just a great experience to be in the room for.
right. Now, since you've been in acting, has there been anybody or, you know, people that you talked to or who have really helped you along the way, giving you good advice about the business and stuff like that? Or, people that you really work close with that, you take a lot of what they teach you?
I do. I have an instructor that I meet with weekly named Jeff Cole, and he does method acting. He's from LA.
Yeah.
And then I work with a studio that has tons of teachers through they just full of wisdom. You got Jesse Malinowski and you got Madi Kachi and all these people that and Eric Morris and Jared Kellner and
Yeah.
Kara, all these people just bring something different into this room and they teach you things that they've seen and been through. They've written books and I'm currently reading and I'm in class 3 days a week at least and they're all 3 hour classes. So
Right.
there's a lot of people, but they're
Right.
all really great.
And let me ask you, you talk about the teaching aspect of it. Is that something you would love to do too? Teach acting classes to, inspire an actor someday? I mean, because I think you'd be good at that. I mean, it seems like to me you take a lot from what your instructors have taught you, and I think you'd be good at that as well.
Thank you. I'm humbled by that question. If I am considered enough to be able to do that and trusted enough, then I would absolutely love to give back in any way I can.
Yeah, and I mean, people don't realize too, Candace, just how invaluable acting classes are because really, like, I mean, all you have to do is just watch a show or watch a movie, and it looks so effortlessly how you guys do this stuff, but it's really not. I mean, it's because you guys are working so hard to do everything the right way, to listen to what the acting coaches are teaching you and stuff like that, that you make it so believable. And we just look at it and we're like, oh, this, how hard could this be? They do it like it's nothing, but you do it that way because of all the lessons and you know the methods they've taught you through the acting classes.
That is correct. That's
Yeah.
correct.
So, Candace, what do you got going on upcoming? I know like there's been a writer's strike. I don't know how much that's involved your career or impacted your career, but do you have some projects coming up that we could really look forward to?
We are all on strike, so everything that is being done now would only be commercial or independent, and the independent has to have clearance in order to do that. So we're all banding together in it, and I went to the rally in Atlanta a few weeks ago, and so we're all in support together, working through this together, and training together, and that's just how it is.
And I mean, is it frustrating sometimes that you don't have work right now? I mean, because it looks like to me that, like I said before, you want to work every day. You want to be able to continue to do what you love. So, I mean, it's almost, I don't want to compare it, but it's almost like quarantine. And again, with COVID, you can't do what you love. So, I mean, that's got to be frustrating too.
Well, creativity never goes anywhere, really.
Right.
So it's not gone. It's just getting better.
Right. Another remake, we talk about remakes, reboots and stuff like that. But I think you'd be awesome in movies like Saturday Night Live or Staying Alive, stuff like that, or Saturday Night Fever. I said Saturday Night Live. I also think you could do that as well. But I just think that you would be real good at that stuff. And the reason I say that is because you really understand the movie, you understand the work that goes into it, and you're not going to try to recreate something. You're just going to try to do what those actresses did when they performed. So I really would love, I mean, if they ever came out with a new Saturday Night Fever, I hope they would get you involved because you would do great with that.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah. So Candace, going forward, what is your biggest goal right now more than anything else? I mean, you are working, you are doing stuff, you've you know, gotten into the business, so that part is, one goal that you could check off, but what do you want to be doing in 5 years?
Well, the same thing I'm doing on a larger level and giving back.
Right.
Right? So specifics in this field is kind of written into your own production dreams and moving forward. So those things change and they contort and they grow. So each day you're just taking your next step forward into what you love.
That's awesome. I really do think that's a great attitude, and you do have a positive outlook on things, which is why I know you're going to be very successful with this. But I want to thank you, Candace, for giving me a few minutes today. It was a real honor. Like I said, I think you're one of those very underrated actresses that we're going to continue to see throughout the years. And I applaud what you're doing. And thank you for giving me a few minutes today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Well, there you have it, folks. Keep an eye out for Candace N Lee because this talented individual is only going to continue to do the very best that she can do. She's very motivated, she's dedicated, she's committed, she has a positive outlook on everything she does, and she just wants to, do the best that she can, and she's not afraid to take any challenge. We're going to be hearing a lot from Candace N Lee in the very near future, and I can't wait to see, her do terrific things. For In the Spotlight, I'm Mike Kenichi saying good night, everyone.